Today I'm going to talk about the standard triple in Quint sinks. A triple is done by shooting 2 rockets as you're falling down and then performing a rocket jump at the end right as the rockets hit the ground. There are 2 key points you'll always need to be aware of for every type of sink jumps out there, not just the triples. First, you need to aim your second and every subsequent rocket in the same vicinity. If your rockets are all spread out instead, you will get nowhere. This might have been painfully obvious, but it's often overlooked, especially when people focus too much on the second point, the alignment. The rockets must land roughly the same time for a successful sink. So for a triple, as long as you maintain your aim placement throughout and align the 2 rockets well enough, you will have an easier time making the jump. Another quick tip is that it's generally better to shoot your first rocket too early than to shoot it too late. Of course, there is a point of shooting way too early where this rule no longer applies, but you often want to start off by timing your first rocket slightly sooner than you'd expect. Now on to timing your second rocket. I'll be talking about 2 methods for how you can learn this. The first one requires the Sync R plugin, so if you're in a server that doesn't support it, move on to the second method. To check whether it's supported, simply type /syncr in the chat, and if nothing happens, that means method 2. But if you happen to play in an offline setting with the ultimate jump pack like me, be sure to stick around. Ignore the UI that pops up for now and let's focus on what needs to be done. First type /s in the chat to save your starting position. Then try shooting your second rocket before you're about to go past the first one. Chances are nothing probably happened and that's totally normal. Just teleport to the top with the /t command once you reach the ground. Because it's very inconvenient to type /t every time, I would suggest binding it to a key. Now try shooting your second rocket again, but this time right as you pass it. If nothing happens still, that's okay. Let's try that again, but this time we'll shoot after we go past it. If by any chance you heard a crit sound during one of these 3 trials, it indicates that you've correctly aligned the 2 rockets. If none of the 3 worked, it's time to put the UI to good use. R1 means your first rocket and R2 your second. The bars next to them indicate how close the rockets are from the ground. So if the bar next to R2 is longer than R1, that means you shot the second rocket too early and vice versa. Use this knowledge to see if you tend to shoot the second rocket too early or too late. Once you figure out the general timing, start relying more on the visual cues to build that consistency. At the end of the day, we want to achieve total autonomy, meaning we want to be able to consistently perform triples without having to rely solely on the plugin. We'll only use it to lubricate the learning process instead of allowing it to be a source of dependence. So try to see which visual signs make that crit sound. Perhaps it's like half a second after you go past the first rocket. Whatever it is, try to use the crit sound as a guide to figure out the timing for your second rocket. Just remember that the higher your ping is, the more you want to delay your second one. This is the reason you can't replicate what I'm doing and expect the same thing to happen unless you have 0 ping like I do. Let's move on to the second method. We'll start by typing CL_showpos1 in the console and you will notice some numbers pop out to the top right. The number next to the word VEL indicates your current velocity, which will increase as you fall. When the number roughly reaches 650, you want to start shooting and keep holding M1. This will automatically align the 2 rockets for you, though there is one thing to be mindful of. The velocity denotes your absolute velocity, meaning this value will change as your horizontal velocity varies. To maximize consistency, minimize your back and forth motion as much as possible. If you have access to the /s and the /t commands, be sure to use them while you're practicing, and binding /t to a key will save you even more time. Once you figure out the timing, it's important for you to build consistency through enough practices. See if you can correctly align the 2 rockets at least 8 out of 10 times. Now once you're comfortable with this, it's time to finally try rocket jumping at the end. This is where your ping starts to matter a lot. With a high ping like 80, you want to jump when the rocket is still somewhat distant from you, which may seem counterintuitive. Think of it as what you can currently see is where the rockets were half a second prior. It's like how the stars in the night sky are the past appearances of themselves, not the present. If you can use the Sync R plugin, go through a similar process as before. take advantage of both the crit sound and the UI to the right. However, your final goal should be being able to do the triple without the plugin. If you can, however, use the Sync R plugin, you're kinda out of luck, and there's nothing much you can do besides the dry process of trial and error. So good luck to you. But before we move on to learning the Quint, you should be able to pull off a triple at least half the time. As always, practice makes perfect. Let's finally talk about the Quint. A Quint can be divided into 3 parts: the triple, the last 2 rockets, and the rocket jump. Let's begin by talking about the second part. Every Quint has a middle platform. Right as you land there, you want to look up to see how close the first 2 rockets are from you. Before those rockets fly past you, start walking off the platform and shoot your 3rd rocket while trying to align it with the rest. After that, try to align your 4th one similar to how you would align the 2nd rocket for a triple. You will notice that you have slightly more time to react to rocket jump at the end of the sync the sooner you fall off from the platform. However, you don't want to start falling too early because otherwise you will mess up the rest of the jump. If your rockets land before you even have the chance to rocket jump, that means you need to walk off the middle platform sooner than you have just now. You will go through a similar trial and error process as before to see which visual cues you can use to time your 3rd and your 4th rocket. Again, if you have the privilege to use the Sync R plugin, take a full advantage. Now the final stage of the Quint is of course the rocket jump at the end. In essence, it's the same as the rocket jump at the end of a triple, so don't get overwhelmed by the sheer number of rockets coming towards you and try to recollect what you did with a triple. It might also help to take a break and go back to practicing some triples if you're feeling stuck. Remember to practice doing a Quint without the Sync R plugin, just like what we've already done with the triples. Sync jumps in general can seem overwhelming at first, so please feel free to leave any question in the comments. That's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.